Welcome to the High Performance Interviews. Today I'm joined by Jocelyn King from America. Welcome to the call, Jocelyn.
Thank you so much. So great to be here with you and your audience.
Thank you for taking the time out. I'm really excited for this conversation. And Jocelyn, I would love you to introduce yourself, what you do, and why that's so important for our audience to hear about.
Absolutely. Well, when people are feeling overwhelmed or concerned about all the cybercrime and the scams and everything they're hearing in the news about AI and cybercriminals, I help them get empowered and equipped to protect themselves in the current AI cybercrime environment so that they can live their best lives and sleep well at night knowing they have secured their weak spots and are ready to live in this online world secured the same way they feel comfortable locking their doors and windows. Just nobody knows how to do that online. And that's what I'm educating people how to do.
That is so true and so important. And I'm looking forward to this conversation so much just because of that. And I know for me, I'm a very trusting person, but I
Hmm.
also know that I get lots of messages that will say, "Oh, you've just won £300. Do go." And I'm
Right.
like, swipe, delete, report.
Right.
And there are lots of people that go, "Oh, fantastic. I've just won some money." And will
Hmm.
click on the link and then they open themselves up to what? Is that their way, that back door into your personal things? Something like that, Jocelyn?
Yes. And let me just add on one thing to what you just said. You
Mm.
pointed out the ones that you recognize and how that one example somebody else may not recognize. The challenge is AI is a powerful tool. I love it. I use it all the time. I've been in Silicon Valley for 25 years. It's an incredibly powerful tool. The only people who love AI and what it can do and all of the good things that it can do, the only people who love it more than people like you and me who are high performers and productive are cyber criminals because it's made bad hackers, good hackers great, and great hackers virtually unstoppable. And so what's happening is we are all getting emails that we can't detect. I almost fell for something last week, and I've been in cybersecurity for 10 years. I was named a top 10 woman in cybersecurity. I hang out with all these top AI people, including and cybersecurity people. I run in both worlds. I have friends at OpenAI and Anthropic, and you can't talk about AI without the cybercrime risks and cybersecurity opportunities, and you can't talk about cybersecurity without AI. So they're intertwined for me. But basically, we've all got emails and texts, and now phone calls and video calls and Zoom participants showing up that are scams that we cannot
Mm.
detect. And cybersecurity people, it's not widely advertised, but they are getting hit by scams that they're falling for and clicking on things. The difference is as cybersecurity people, we tend to isolate things. We have a lot of concentric rings. So think of somebody gets through the moat, but they still can't get into the castle keep. But people they're getting into layers. It's just the average person has multiple weak spots, and one way in gives the bad guys access to everything. That's the primary difference between cybersecurity pros and novices.
Okay. I would like to roll back and find out who Jocelyn was and what happened to Jocelyn before she became a number 10 cybersecurity expert in America, because I know there's a
Mhm.
story there.
Well, there is, and I don't wish this on anyone, though I'm glad to have ended up where I ended up. But while I was working in Silicon Valley, I spent a decade in startups and over a decade in large companies like Intel. And I actually came into Intel through an acquisition because I had worked at a company that was silicon competing with NVIDIA. And for those in your audience who are familiar, that NVIDIA is the top semiconductor company. It's the number one rated and most valuable company in the world right now because it enables AI to happen. Without the chips and the compute power, we wouldn't have ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or anything. And so I was at a company that was making similar products and putting that out. So I helped launch that. So back in 2012, I got to see this AI world that was coming. So I got an early seat, as it were. And In fact, that's why Intel acquired us was for that capability and that technology. And then Intel was acquiring a lot of other AI companies. You don't think of AI and Intel, but the CEO at that time wanted to turn Intel into a data and AI centric company. And so all these AI companies were getting acquired, and I got to work with those folks and really learn the technology and everything. So my time at Intel was really focused on learning AI. And then half of my team was from McAfee, which is a top cybersecurity company that they had acquired. So I was learning a bit about cybersecurity, but I only knew it at a very academic level. And I thought I was safe in my own home because I had a password protection on my network. I used different passwords for different things. I had a formula I'd put together so that there was a unique password for each account. So I thought I was fine. Like most people, I thought I was fine. I've taken several steps. I'm good, right? Unfortunately, I was targeted by cybercriminals, and they not only hacked our network, and got access to our accounts, but they also had access to our home security system. And at some point, and to this day, we don't know when, they were able to disable our home security system, turn off the cameras, open the deadbolts, and like a member of the family, and come in, and they planted surveillance in our home that we did not find for well over a year. And when we did find it, it was just through an accident of having had a leak in our roof and needing our attic insulation redone. And while the attic repairmen were there, I was in my bedroom and I saw this thing pop down over my head. I was like, what is this? And it was the microphone that was planted in the ceiling above my bed. And they vacuumed it out, and I came running out, and we opened the vacuum, and then I learned about what these devices are that are surveillance. Now I'm thinking, okay, oh my God. And I was really frozen in fear. I mean, my stomach was, I felt like my body turned to liquid. It was just terrifying. And then when I started getting my senses together and my brain started functioning again, I said, well, I got to call the local police and all of this. And I found out that because I didn't have a physical break-in with a door broken down or a lock picked or fingerprints to dust like we see in a CSI movie or TV show, they couldn't help me. And then I called the FBI and spoke to a field agent. I was also terrified because I'm thinking, do they know I'm calling the FBI? Do they know we found this? I mean, I didn't know what, I felt like I was being watched, like I was in a glass house. But I did speak to the field agent, and before I could finish telling him what this device was, he described it to me. It's so common, so prevalent, available on hundreds of websites. And because it's so common, and because we didn't have a photo of who had broken in or evidence, there was nothing he could do. And I learned the hard way that I was one of a million Americans reporting cybercrime to the FBI that year. And I later learned that the FBI cybercrime director themselves, he believes that's only 10 to 15% of the total. And that
Oh,
was pre-AI.
oh, I.
And but in so here I was decimated. We lost $500,000. My husband, our health took a toll. My husband's health got so bad, he had a series of heart attacks, had to have heart surgery, had PTSD and a personality change. My 20-year marriage imploded. I lost an opportunity for a promotion at work because I was so focused. I was barely able to I was trying to just keep my job because I was so distracted. And my own health took a toll. And I realized the severity of the impact of this. You read the statistics. Right now, the average cybercrime hack that costs people in US dollars $20,622. That's the average. And and I've met people who have lost far more than that. So here I am reaching out for help, not finding any. But then I started reaching out to cybersecurity people, and I did get help. And along the way, I met people who were protecting our country's nuclear submarine codes, who were protecting all the big banks on Wall Street and working with the CIA to take down the big cybercrime rings, and the people who protect Microsoft and Amazon. And they invited me to join a cybersecurity startup, which I did. So I got to work for several years side by side in the trenches. I learned all about the dark web. I learned all about cybercrime rings. I learned about nation state actors. I learned the hacker's playbook and how they come after everyday people. And I learned what everybody needs to know to protect themselves. And we got named a top 10 company. I got named a top 10 woman in cybersecurity. And I said, great, I'm going to use this as a platform to help educate, empower, and equip people to protect themselves in this modern era.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That is such an, I've heard pieces of your story before, Jocelyn,
Mhm.
and this is the whole story coming to life.
Yeah.
With you going after and finding out about who can help me, what are the things I can do, who else can I help, and then you're getting put onto this. It sounds like you're on a tester pilot thing, finding out how these things happen, and people are looking to you to give them some answers. How did you
Mhm.
get onto that? I don't know what it was. It a board? Was it a company that was started with you in it?
It was a company started. So I was working full time as a founding leader in a cybersecurity startup with top cybersecurity people who were protecting banks on Wall Street and Fortune 100 companies and all, and had been fighting crime their entire lives. One of my co founders got into it because he was just one of these natural hackers and what we call an ethical hacker. He's not a bad guy, but he's got the same skills as a bad guy. And he wandered in because he was so good. He got into a big government entity and they came calling and said, well, you can either go to prison or you can come work for us. And he said, okay, I'll come work for you. So he worked for the US government for well over a decade, protecting top secret information from people with equal skills who were bad guys and literally fought cybercrime like a Marvel hero. A lot of the people in cybersecurity follow all the big Marvel movies and are very into superheroes and supervillains because honestly, that's their day-to-day life. And
Yeah.
I worked side by side with them and got to see things that were unimaginable. Most people have no idea what the dark web is. And the dark web is basically, it's like the internet, but it's like a Star Wars bar, if you remember the original Star Wars movie. It's where all the criminals hang out. Think of a Craigslist and eBay for bad guys selling everything from your passwords and your government ID numbers and your personal information to child pornography to weapons and drugs and everything else. It's a eBay and Craigslist for the black market. And I've been on it and I've seen it. It's just and our it was actually created by our government as a private communications channel. And it was so good that the criminals infiltrated it and made it their platform as well. So I got to experience all of this that I had no idea about. And when here I was, a savvy person with protections in place, and I had computer passwords, I didn't leave things open. And I realized that's actually the number one threat for people is not even cyber criminals. It's not even AI deepfake videos. It's their own sense
Habits?
of, yeah, well, it's their own confidence that it's not likely to happen to them. And that false sense of security that lulls us into being that. The number one thing I learned is that the bad guys only need one way in, which
Mm.
makes total sense now that I'm indoctrinated into all of this. But if you think about it, you wouldn't leave your house with your garage door open or your front door open and the screen unlocked and go off on vacation or go to sleep at night thinking you're safe in your home. But everybody's doing that online every day without knowing it. And my
Mm.
goal was how can you learn how to equivalently online lock your doors and windows without having to become a cybersecurity expert. I mean, I spent 5 years in the trenches and on the dark web and learning everything because cybersecurity people and ethical hackers are so different. They're what you'd expect them to be. They're so deep in tech and they just write software code that they don't know how to explain in plain English how to protect yourself. They live in
Yes.
such a different universe. They can't even comprehend the things that we do and don't do.
Yeah.
And their eyes glaze over. They don't even, in fact, my cybersecurity friends have thanked me because of my information I've put together. They send their family members to me because I speak at a 101,
Yes,
an
you're the
entry
bridge.
level which they can't even fathom how to do. And in fact, one friend called me at the Rosetta Stone between cybersecurity professionals and everyday people. So I learned all this, and then I had to think, okay, how do you put this together? How do you put all this together? Because when I realized that what I had in place that I thought made me safe back before I was attacked was I had doors locked and I had windows locked, but I also had big gaping holes. I had the equivalent of my garage door wide open without knowing it. I had windows wide open. I had my back door open. I didn't know it. I looked around at the few things I had done and thought, well, good, I've taken good steps. But that's like closing and locking half of the doors and windows in your house. You would never think that you were safe doing that.
Mm.
And so I'm really on this mission to help people be able to see, a lot of people say the reason online safety and cybersecurity is so hard is that the technology is so complex and the bad guys so formidable and stuff. And I'm not saying those things aren't true, but I think the number one reason that people like I was and people like you and your listeners can't protect ourselves is you can't protect what you can't see. I mean, think about it. When you lock up your house, you go room by room, door by door, and window by window, and you can see them and you close them. We just can't see our digital lives. Think about that. Your passwords, your settings, they're buried in settings on your phone or your computer. There's little toggle switches that can dramatically, I mean, everybody has these devices that are incredibly powerful and they have built-in security. It's just not turned on when you get it. This
Yeah.
little toggle switch is the difference between somebody getting in and stealing everything that matters to you or not. But nobody tells you what to do without you having to really study cybersecurity for literally a couple of years. And I said, it doesn't have to be this hard. If I just create the map.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing, Lucy, and your listeners will appreciate this because they're all high performers. When I was at that decimated point where I really felt down for the count, the police can't help me, the FBI can't help me, I'm on my own. And I'm like, how could this be happening? This just makes no sense. I was like, where's the checklist? I'm a go-getter. I'm a get stuff done girl. Give me a checklist and it'll be done
I'll go and do it.
it'll be
Yes.
done by tea, right? I'm like, and it didn't, I looked everywhere. I still have the dozens of books I bought. I visited hundreds of websites and I found good pieces of information, but they all were telling me how to lock a single door or window or a cup or a room. It wasn't collective. And when you go back to the number one rule of cybercrime, which is the bad guys only need one way in, and they're basically lazy, they're just looking for easy targets. And if you
And we're
are
the
an easy
easiest, right?
target,
We're the easiest
yeah,
ones, not the
we're the
banks, not the,
easiest.
yeah.
And I ultimately found there are 22 things in total that you can do to be as safe as cybersecurity professionals having to completely, without having to completely build your own computers and completely unplug from the internet and live in a bunker, right? So, and there's 10 that are basic essentials that everybody needs to do. And if you do these 10, you're literally making yourself more than 10 times safer than you are without them.
Okay, everybody who's listening in is going, what are the 10? They're all leaning in, going, come on, Jocelyn, spill the beans. What are the 10?
Okay, that's
So,
good.
so are you going to give them a couple on here, Jocelyn, and
I'm going to
then
give them a
send them
couple on
somewhere
here.
or?
I'll also send you to my website where you can learn
Oh,
what the 10 are and stuff.
fantastic.
And I go into detail in that in my book as well if they're interested in that. And I have a podcast where I say what they are. So there's multiple ways that you can get the information.
Yes,
And
yeah, and for that, everybody, there's going to be a description box below so you can find out all of Jocelyn's details and the websites to go to and the book that she's going to be launching, which we're going to speak about in just a second. But just give us a couple of those tips here, Jocelyn,
so,
just for a starter.
yeah, so I think a few things are. One is, first of all, let me ask you a question. And everybody listening, think about this too. How many passwords do you think you have?
Oh my
What's your guess? Let's
gosh.
see. In total, how many passwords do you guess you have?
Probably,
So that's what the average people guess somewhere between 10 and 50. And the actual research that is studied shows that people have the average is 240.
oh,
Now, and you think that's not possible, but here's what I want you to think about. And I don't know all of the UK equivalents, so I'll use some US, but we have a Groupon thing here in the US that's very popular where people buy discounts and stuff. And so you can buy this 3 yoga sessions for the price of one. But in order to do it, you have to create this account on this app. And so there's an account with a login that has your email and a password that you're creating. And then there you go to buy something on a website that you love. And if you sign up and you put in to get text messages, you get 10% or 20% off. And all of these things. All of these are equivalents. And they don't all get you into your bank account or your savings or retirement. But here's what happens. If I get a hold of your email login, most people are resetting their passwords through their email. And I'm going to wait till I know you're asleep or busy at work, which is easy to do by your patterns, and I can even tell that. And if I get into your email account, I'm going to be in there looking around. You're not going to know I'm there. It's very much like having a stealth intruder. They're watching you and they're observing. And so I'm going to look for the prime time to strike. In fact, most banking fraud and stuff happens on Friday afternoon and Saturday because that's when the lowest amount of resources are available to catch it or to do something about it. And people tend to be winding down for the
Yeah.
weekend and going to celebrate and getting ready, and they're not paying attention if they are getting alerts on their phone. And most people aren't getting alerts on their phone anyway. So when you think about it, those types of things, I can reset your passwords. And if I get into an account that's inconsequential, that's not a big deal. But if I can use that to get to your main email account, I I could have access to your banks and your retirement accounts and resetting there. And so those are the things that people have to think about. Again, it's a tunnel in. It's like leaving a small window open and you think,
Mm.
oh, it's a small upper window. If a burglar can still crawl through it, they can still get in. And you're thinking, well, I wouldn't crawl through it. But they can. And so you have to think about things like that. So let's even just say you have 50. Even if you only had 15, are you going to remember 15 unique strong passwords? And the answer is no.
No.
If they're really going to be unique and random, where a computer, see, that's the thing too. A lot of us think about the effort we think it would take for a hacker to break in. They're not doing that. They're busy gaming or buying a new car or something while all their algorithms are running, and they're literally hacking 1,000 people a minute and attempted hacks and stuff and they're successful. And it doesn't take much to become a hacker. I mean, for $79 and an internet connection, I can get a hacker kit with ransomware and put it on there. And like I said, I've been on the dark web and our information's available for pennies on the dollar. And there's so much data. There is so much data for sale that it's a buyer's market. And so it's very low cost. Your government ID, your email and password, even your credit card and all of that, I can get for pennies or dollars.
Wow.
And then I can use it against you to get more money. And so it's basically like being able to get a copy of the key to your front door from a digital perspective. And then once I'm in, I have access to your jewels and your valuables. So this is why I said that they only need one way in, and we're not used to thinking of ourselves that way. So my number one tip is
Yes.
get a password manager. A password manager is
You mean
going
like a
to
digital password
it's going
manager?
to be a digital password manager. And let me just say this. So 95% of all cybersecurity professionals use password managers. The others use their own encryption tools because they're encryption experts. Okay. So 95% of us use a password manager. And of that, 75% of us use either 1Password or Bitwarden. I'm going to recommend 1Password, the numeral one password.com. I'm not affiliated with them. I don't get any links from this, but they are considered the gold standard and they're the easiest to use for personal accounts. So for the price of a cup of coffee, you get a monthly subscription and it will generate strong passwords for you and it will secure them. And they have incredible security so that even if they got hacked, the people can't get access. It's not like they're going to download an Excel spreadsheet that has all of your accounts and that you use this email and that name. It is so highly encrypted. It's like the old things where you have to have 3 keys to get into a vault, and that's
Yeah.
after you get past the guards and the dragons.
Yes.
So it's so well encrypted that people can't get in. The only way they can get in is if you give your password away. right? If you give them the keys to the kingdom. But that way you have it all in one place, and it's better to have it there than in your head. So I
Is
highly
it that?
recommend
So I
use
have a
one
question
password.
here, and I'm sorry
Mhm.
to interrupt you.
No, please.
With having them online, because I'm always I don't want to have those sorts of things stored online. It's, do you want to store this? I'm like, no, I don't want to store this. I'll write it
Right,
down on a piece of paper.
right.
Which is better, what you're saying with the digital, or actually just having it stored away on in a
Well,
book somewhere?
the hybrid of that, you want it in this digital vault. You don't want to just store it on your browser. You don't now. So a lot of people ask me, well, okay, I have an iPhone. Can I use the Apple keychain module and the model and stuff like that? That's better than nothing. That's better than post-it notes, and it's also convenient. But the thing is, it's not as secure as a password manager like 1Password. So whatever you don't put sticky notes up and don't reuse your password. That's the number one rule. Because here's the thing, like I just said, if I get in and I have your password, which I can buy for, let's say, I can buy it for 25 cents on something. It says, if you've reused that across all 50 accounts, I can now access 50 of your accounts. If you use a
Mm,
unique one on each account, I can only get into the one account.
right. Yes.
See the difference? And
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
what most people
absolutely.
don't realize. And that's what I didn't realize back before I got into this. So it's, oh, that makes total sense. And it's so obvious, but yet it's non-obvious until you hear it. So what you want to do is have a unique password for every account that is randomized. What's great about this is you don't have to try to remember a formula. You don't have to try to remember. And it'll also alert you to when there have been breaches and you need to update your password. It'll say there was a breach in this in your bank, let's say, or your credit, your the store you have an account with or whatever. And then you get an alert that you need to go in and change it, and it'll automatically change it for you. The other thing that's very important is those links we get on scam emails that have us click on things.
Oh, yeah.
It looks
Yeah.
like we did really order something and we know it is being shipped to us and we get an email that says there's a problem with the delay and you click here and then you click on it and all of a sudden you go, oh, I shouldn't have done this. And you don't know exactly what's happening because they're downloading malware onto your computer. Well, the reason being is the link that you're clicking on looked legitimate somehow,
Yeah.
right? Or you weren't paying attention. But if you think, okay, I'm going to pay attention, I look at it, that looks right. But one of the ways hackers do, this is very diabolical. Picture this in your mind, if you will. Picture Microsoft.com. This is an example that can't be used because this is taken away. But picture I replace the M with an R and an N. And to your eye looking at it, if it said rnmicrosoft.com, you'd think it said Microsoft.com. There's character changes like that. They'll replace a O with a zero. They'll replace, there's things that they'll do, or just because our brains are wired to hear something, if they spelled Amazon with two A's in the middle or something, we're not necessarily going to notice it. It's going to look close enough and our brain doesn't detect it. So we think we're clicking on a good link. The thing about these password managers is you have a browser extension, which means when you're on your computer on the website, you say, okay, I want to go here and fill this in. It will tell you this is not the website associated with this. So it's automatically protecting
Oh,
you from a
interesting.
bad link. And so you're getting this extra, it's kind of having your own security team looking out for
Yeah.
you. And unless you're Kim Kardashian, who actually has one, why not use one like this? You get it for $5 a month. So
Yeah, it sounds
that's
like I've got
why
my
we use
security guard sitting there going, I'm
exactly,
gonna protect you,
exactly.
Lucy. It's okay. Don't you worry, I'm right here.
Exactly. Because the whole point of security, as I mentioned at the beginning, that cybersecurity professionals have is we have layers. You want to have these layers and layers of protection. So if they get past the moat, they still aren't in the castle. And if they get into the castle, they're still not in the king or queen's chambers. And if they're in there, they're still not in the keep. So you want to have that. This is one of the ways you build that. You have your password manager. So that's my tip number one, and that's really important. And then tip number two would be to freeze your credit. Because one of the biggest things that happens is that people, and this is so many people lose money this way. Credit cards are taken out in your name. Cars are purchased at used car dealerships, driven off the lot. Property overseas is purchased. All of this using your credit. And you'll find out about it when you go to make a purchase yourself and find out you have bad credit because you're 3 months behind or 6 months behind or 9 months behind, or you've got a collection agency calling you. You're like, what is this about? And can you ultimately clear your name? In most cases, yet, but yes, but I've talked to people whose credit was so damaged that when they're even buying a house themselves, they have to produce all this evidence that their credit record wasn't against them. They're guilty and they're having to prove their innocence. And it can delay. And if you're trying to buy a house that other people want, you could lose your opportunity. I've seen people lose the house they wanted because of this. So there's really all these ripple effects besides the financial implications. So
Yeah.
if you freeze your credit, they can't take those things out. And the only thing you need to do is unfreeze it. You lift the freeze temporarily when you're going to buy a car or a house or get a new credit card. And in some ways, there's also a side benefit financially because it gives you that cooling off period. Like, am I really doing this or is this an impulse buy? So there's this upside benefit of it as well.
So
But
you're
if you
saying, so
freeze your
I'm just going to
credit,
stop you there. So you're saying freeze it on a daily basis until you're going to use it, then unfreeze it, use it,
well,
then freeze
yeah,
it.
you put it on freeze so that it's permanently frozen.
Yeah.
And then it allows you, there's a temporary lift that you can do. And you go in and you say, how long do you want to lift it? And you can make it 24 hours, you can make it 48 hours, you can make it 72 hours. And then you don't even have to go back in and refreeze it. It'll automatically default back. So you don't,
After that
if you
time.
forget it, you get busy with life, you're not sitting there as a sitting duck anymore. And
Mm.
so it's really important. And it doesn't take that long to create it. And it really doesn't take, I went in to buy a car a couple 2 years ago and they were running the credit and they said, do you have a freeze on your credit? And I went, oh, yes, I forgot I had. And it was Friday night. I'd been looking at it for a couple of days, but it was Friday night when I was purchasing it. I opened the apps to the credit union and in my password manager, I had the password and I just went in. I went right to the link. I said temporarily lift. The other thing I did is in the US, we have three credit bureaus. And I asked them which one is it because you don't have to lift them on all three. Which one are you running against all three, against one, against so find out what they're running and just lift that one.
Yeah.
And then you can sleep at night knowing that people aren't using your good name and your good credit to put you in a bad
And
situation.
you're so much more in control then, aren't you? I
Yes.
mean,
And doesn't that feel empowering? Because the other
yeah.
thing is, I use the word, I like to, what I'm really doing is helping empower and equip people to take charge. A lot of the cybersecurity industry, I think, fails people because it's like, we'll take care of the security for you. And when a big part of your listeners are women, and you have wonderful empowered men as well, but empowerment is so important. Who we don't want to just be a damsel or dude in distress needing to be rescued. It's great to go, "Oh, I understand this." Like what I've just explained. Your audience now knows this, and now they can make good independent decisions. I don't even tell people whether they should, if you look at the 22 total items in my book, I have them in three rings. I have the 10 safer essentials, I then have safer pro, which is additional layers, and then safer mastery because you might want to do all of them, Lucy. You might think, I'm going to sleep better knowing I've done everything and I'm going to do these over time. Somebody else might think, oh, I'm good with the safer essentials. If something else happens, I know what to do. And so there's not a one size fits all. But if you're going to sleep better at night, knowing you've taken care of every area. And the other thing is, I let you see what the areas are, and you can decide for yourself how important it is to you. Because
Yeah.
I'm really about there not being a one size fits all. There's not being about just buy our product and we'll plug it in for you. I'd rather educate people so that the same way, like I said, that you know how to lock your doors and windows. There was a time when a deadbolt on a door was a new technology that people had to get used to.
Mm.
And now we lock it without thinking about it. And so the
Yeah.
same is true with the password manager. Once you get familiar with it, it's so easy. The people who have come to my workshops later, they're saying, "Oh, I can't believe how easy this is."
Okay, so Jocelyn, what is your third tip for our listeners?
So I'm going to share something with your listeners that I put together, and it's an acronym. And it's the acronym, I call it the SAFER method because it's the acronym SAFER. It's for when you get the text or the email or a phone call or a video call, because there are instances with people getting videos from grandkids, kids, whatever, in distress, brothers or sisters, spouses, like especially if they're on travel and you're getting distress, and it's an AI deep fake. And I think your whole audience has heard about AI deep fakes, but they are coming to a phone near you or a meeting room near you. And there are companies that have wired millions of dollars because the person in the finance department who could do that was on a Zoom call with the colleagues that they meet with every week, and there were AI deep fakes of them. There's a famous example of this with somebody who was on a Zoom call with five colleagues that they'd worked with for years, and all five of them were deep fakes of the real people and wired $25 million that was never recoverable. And this is a documented case. And this is a really smart person who runs a finance team and has access to these millions of dollars. This is not some schmo who doesn't know any better. And if it can, so the thing is, it can happen to anybody. So this technology is almost free and there's ransomware as a service subscription software subscriptions that bad guys rent to come at you. There's AI kits to help people get deep fakes of your family members. So you're going to be getting a phone call or a voice call that's going to sound like somebody, you're sure it's them. And I just want your audience to be aware that we're at a point, and it's been proven scientifically, that we cannot just trust our eyes and ears. 88% of people in a study, I think this was the Stanford study. I read a lot of studies. I can't remember which one this was. 88% could not detect that it was a fake. And so we just want to have a healthy skepticism. I don't want anybody to be paranoid and running around feeling like the end of the world is here, but I do want people to be cautious. And by the
Mm.
way, you're already that way. When you travel or when you're out walking a street late at night, you're keeping your wits about you. It doesn't mean you're not enjoying your life and you're still going to that dinner and you're still meeting with friends, but you're going to be aware of your surroundings. And we just need to apply that same healthy self protection to our online interactions that we have
Mm.
been a little sloppy on. So that's all I'm asking them to do. So here's what SAFER stands for is you want to stop before you do anything, especially if it's about wiring money or giving personal information. You might start talking to somebody and you're convinced they're a customer service rep, but and then they start and they're engendering trust. They're telling you enough about you that that you're confident that, but then they start asking you for information. I want that to be a tripwire for you to go, wait a minute, why do they need this? And did they call me? So I want you to be so the A in safer is assess. Are they asking you for information? Because if they are, your best case is to say, well, I'm going to hang up and call back and talk to you. And you don't call back the number, you don't hit redial, you go to the website or your phone list where you have your real
The
bank
real
or
number.
the real customer service. And this happens too. Some people, because they get in a panic, they will call the number. They'll think, I'm not going to talk to this person. I'm going to call the number in the email. And guess who sent the email? The bad guys. So you have to look, if it's your credit card, pull it out and call the number on the back of the card. If it's your bank or any place else that you're doing business with, go to their known website, get the phone number, and call back in. So that
Okay.
assess is really important. And the F is fact check. It's the same thing. Am I 100% certain this is really them? Just because it came in and it said your bank's name doesn't mean it is your bank, because that's very easy to change the name of that. It's very easy to have a name of a person over an email, and it could be a Gmail or a Yahoo, but they could claim that they're the president of your bank or whatever,
Mm,
customer
mm.
service.
Yeah.
So you don't want to trust that. So you want to fact check. Am I 100% certain? And if not, you want to end that communication and start a new one in
Yeah.
a known good channel. Okay. And then the E is execute. Then the E is, okay, I'm going to call them. Yes, it really was them, which is usually about 5% of the time. Most of the time you find out you were getting scammed. But in the 5% that somebody really was calling you, now you can execute and give them the information they want because you're in control. You're empowered, you're equipped, you're initiating the conversation. And then the R is reinforce. Reinforce, is there anything that happened to me just now that I need to increase? Let's say your emails are coming in and you've got these email scams. You want to block and delete. You want to block that sender. You want to make sure you're deleting it so that any malware in an attachment isn't in there. So you want to just do any reinforcement so that you clean up the crime scene, as it were, and you are helping prevent it from happening again. And that's my
And do you
safety.
report it as well, Jocelyn? When that's come in, do you report it to somebody, or is
Yeah,
that
well,
do you
usually
do?
when you hit block, there's an option. If you're in a
Mhm.
Microsoft or a Google or something like this, or on your phone, if you hit block and delete, it is notifying. And that information does get shared and put on a list. So there's not a, and then if you think there's a real scam, there's a number of forums. If you get a phone number, you can type into Google the phone number and say, is this a scam? And sometimes you'll see there's a thread on Reddit. Sometimes you'll see that, like, for the US gets reports from all over the world. So even if you're in the UK or anywhere else in the world, you can still go to IC3, which is because it's the FBI Internet Crime Commission, something. There's three C's in it. So they say
C3.
IC3.org, and you can report it there. And then you're helping protect other people.
Yeah, I like that because it's if I've got that, somebody else might be getting it and not be as aware as I am. And I
Right,
remember there was something that came through from my bank, and this is not the normal person that would be emailing me and asking me these
right,
questions. So I'm like,
right.
I'm not saying anything.
Yeah.
Like, who are you,
There's a little
basically?
game in cybersecurity circles where when people in cybersecurity get one of these callers that they know is a scam, they start the clock and they try to keep them on the phone as long as possible. Because if I can keep them on the phone for 55 minutes, that's all these other people they haven't been able to get a hold of. And so there's these little leaderboards in cybersecurity. Like, how long were you able to keep them on? One guy, they'll be like 3.5 hours because they're like, well, I mean, there's literally some people who pretend that they're actually going to the bank at the ATM to wire the money to get cryptocurrency and wire the money, and they will keep them on the phone for hours because they're just messing with the bad guys. And there's leaderboards and there's heroes of people who have cut them on because the longer that we keep them tied up, the less
Yes.
likely they are to be calling you. And so there's even things like that. And that's how one of the ways cybersecurity people remain sane is that we have to have some outlets for
Got to
things
be
like
some fun in there.
exactly. And I want to say that most people don't take these steps because they're like it feels like death and taxes. It's okay, I know I have to do my taxes. I know I have to do my will or my trust. I'll get around to it. I'll
I'll
get
leave it till
around to it.
tomorrow. Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the reasons that so many people get it. So every 32 seconds, someone's life is devastated by cybercrime, like mine was.
Okay. So, right. Well, as peak performance coach speaking here, put it in your diary when you're going to do it and set aside. How
Mhm.
long would they need to set aside to do those top 10, Jocelyn?
The 10 realistically will take 4 hours. You can do it faster if you're fast. And here's the other thing. That's assuming you haven't done any of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
If you
Yeah.
already, I mean, most people have already done 5 of them. But if you are like coming from ground zero and you don't have any safety, 4 hours. If you've done
Okay.
half of them, it's going to be half of that.
Okay.
So,
So a great way to do that is to do an hour a day for 4 days, or a
yes.
whole slot of 4 hours, or 2 days, 2 hours on one day, 2 hours on the next. But get it
Right.
done because then you know that you are feeling a lot safer. And like Jocelyn said, you're back in control of you and all your devices. So
Yes.
very,
And I
very
really want you to get the mindset of it. It's not like a will, it's not like taxes. It's closing your garage door and locking your front door deadbolt. You wouldn't put that off till tomorrow or next week or next month. So I want you to, if when you see it that way, then you understand the importance of it. And the other thing is once you set these things up, you're just maintaining them.
mm,
It's just easy maintenance. And then you can sleep better at night and you get this wonderful sense of accomplishment. We're talking about high performers. Think of your leaderboard of checking these things off your list. Think of looking at the 10 and going, "Oh, I've already done 6 of them." And you already
yes.
or maybe you're going to look at it and go, "Oh, I thought I had done it, but I didn't do it completely." And I'm going to add these two little security things. And all of it is, like I said, other than the password manager, a lot of the things you need to do are free or it's settings on your phone or computer. You have this incredible arsenal of security tools at your disposal that aren't turned on.
That's
You
because we
you
don't
can't
know they're
call
there a
yourself
lot
a
of the
yeah, you
time.
can't call yourself a high performer if you're not activating these incredible resources available.
And then, Jocelyn, you've got a book coming out. So just
Yes.
share with our audience
Perfect.
about your book.
It's called Digital Self-Defense in an AI World, How to Protect Yourself Online. And you can find it on Amazon and it's coming to bookstores soon. It's also on my website, smarteronlinesafety.com, where you can also get free resources. You can listen, subscribe to my podcast, Smarter Online Safety, or get any tools to help you there. I also have an assessment if people want to take it to know how they stand on all 22 items. But got something for everybody there.
I love that so much. And yes, and if you're listening to this and the book has it's just come out, go and buy it because it's coming out. Well, from where our recording, it's going to be coming out very soon. So it's going to definitely be by the time this podcast is live, it's going to be in those stores and it's going to be on Amazon. So definitely go and purchase it and go to Jocelyn's website because she is absolutely awesome. And she's definitely the bridge between, oh my goodness, this is too confusing to, oh, right, I understand and I can do that. So let's just go and do that and take Jocelyn's amazing advice. So, Jocelyn, is there anything you would like to leave our audience with before we finish out here?
I no, I just want to say thank you for all that you're doing, helping high performers be more high performing. And I just want to acknowledge that this audience is incredible because you're all smart and you all know what you're doing. And that's why I know that you now know that you can feel even more high performing and empowered and equipped by taking care of yourself and getting smarter and safer at the same time. And that's a wonderful, wonderful feeling as being a high performance individual of knowing that you're taking care of business and you're avoiding catastrophe.
Yeah, I love that so much. And share it with somebody else. Once you've
Yes,
done it, share it with your friends, share it with your family,
yes,
spread the word so that
yes.
people are safer out there. Because how awful is it to happen to you? But if you knew about it and you
Hmm.
didn't tell the people that you loved about it, then that would feel really bad if they got scammed.
So true.
So thank you so much, Jocelyn. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. And for our audience, there will be another video coming up on screen. So I will see you over there. In the meantime, you'll find Jocelyn's details below here. So do go through to the website, purchase the book, and have the most awesome day.